The room was silent save for the faint hum of the air conditioner. James sat on his bed, heart pounding in his chest, staring at the open wardrobe in front of him. Inside, amidst the neatly hung shirts and trousers, were the items that had become both a secret comfort and a source of anxiety, a collection of dresses, skirts, blouses, and a few pairs of high heels. He had carefully curated this collection over the past year, each piece carefully selected, each purchase shrouded in secrecy. Tonight, like many other nights, James was alone at home. His mother, Margaret, worked the late shift at the hospital, usually not returning until the early hours of the morning. He cherished these solitary moments, not because he was lonely, but because they allowed him the freedom to explore a part of himself he kept hidden from the world. James stood up and walked over to the wardrobe, his fingers trembling as they skimmed over the fabrics. He chose a simple yet elegant navy blue dress, one that he had saved for special occasions. Tonight felt like one of those special occasions, though he couldn't pinpoint why. Perhaps it was the rising tide of emotions he had been suppressing for so long, or perhaps it was the comforting thought of being able to express himself without fear. He slipped out of his jeans and t-shirt, pulling the dress over his head, feeling the soft fabric glide over his skin. He took a deep breath, looking at himself in the mirror. The person staring back at him was both familiar and foreign. James had always felt out of place in his own skin, but in these moments, dressed in these clothes, he felt a sense of peace and belonging that was otherwise elusive. His mother's vanity table stood in the corner of the room, a treasure trove of cosmetics. James had spent hours watching makeup tutorials online, learning how to apply foundation, eyeshadow, and lipstick. He sat down and began his transformation, the act itself calming his nerves. By the time he was finished, a beautiful young woman looked back at him from the mirror. He smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him, a sense of rightness. James decided to take a few photos, wanting to capture this moment. He posed in front of the mirror, feeling more confident with each click of the camera. Lost in the euphoria of the moment, he didn't hear the front door open. Margaret walked into the house, exhaustion etched into her features. It had been a particularly grueling shift, and all she wanted was a hot shower and her bed. As she made her way down the hallway, she noticed a soft light emanating from James's room. Curiosity piqued. She approached the door, which was slightly ajar. What she saw stopped her in her tracks. There, standing in front of the mirror, was her son, dressed in one of her dresses, makeup perfectly applied. For a moment, Margaret's mind couldn't process what she was seeing. She blinked, hoping it was a trick of the light, but the image remained. James, lost in his reverie, finally noticed the movement out of the corner of his eye. He turned, and his blood ran cold. There, standing in the doorway, was his mother, her expression a mixture of shock, confusion, and something else he couldn't quite identify. Panic surged through him, and he froze, unsure of what to do or say. "Mom," he began, his voice trembling. Margaret took a tentative step forward. "James, what is this? What are you doing?" Tears welled up in James's eyes. This was his worst fear realized. The carefully constructed walls of his secret world came crashing down, and he was left exposed and vulnerable. He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. "Please, Mom, don't be mad," he finally managed to choke out. I can explain." Margaret's face softened, the initial shock giving way to concern. She walked over to the bed and sat down, patting the space beside her. "Come here, honey. Let's talk." James hesitated, then walked over and sat down next to her, his hands twisting nervously in his lap. Margaret reached out and gently took his hands in hers. "James, I need you to help me understand," she said softly. "Why are you dressed like this?" James took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "Mom, I've felt like this for a long time. Like I don't belong in my own skin. Dressing like this, it makes me feel more like myself. More comfortable. I know it's hard to understand, but it's who I am." Margaret listened, her heart breaking for her son. She had always known James was different, more sensitive and introspective than other boys his age. But she had never imagined this. "Honey, I'm not mad," she said, her voice gentle. "I'm just surprised. I had no idea you were feeling this way. Why didn't you tell me?" James looked down, tears streaming down his face. "I was scared. I didn't want you to think I was a freak or something." Margaret's heart ached at the pain in his voice. She pulled him into a hug, holding him tightly. "Oh, James, you're not a freak. You're my son, and I love you no matter what. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you couldn't come to me with this." James clung to her, sobbing. "Thank you, Mom. I was so scared." They sat there for a long time, Margaret holding James as he cried. She stroked his hair, whispering words of comfort, trying to soothe his fears. Eventually, James's sobs subsided, and he pulled back, wiping his eyes. Do you hate me?" he asked, his voice small. Margaret shook her head vehemently. "Of course not. I could never hate you. I just need some time to process this, okay? It's a lot to take in, but I promise I'll try to understand." James nodded, relief flooding through him. "Thank you, Mom. That means a lot." Margaret smiled, brushing a strand of hair out of his face. "You're a beautiful young woman, James. Or would you prefer I call you something else?" James thought for a moment, then nodded. "Jamie. I like Jamie." Margaret smiled. "Jamie it is. And don't worry, we'll figure this out together. You're not alone in this." Jamie felt a weight lift off his shoulders. For the first time in a long time, he felt hopeful about the future. He knew there would be challenges ahead, but with his mother by his side, he felt like he could face anything. They spent the rest of the evening talking, Margaret asking questions and Jamie answering as best as he could. There were tears and laughter, and by the end of the night, they both felt closer than ever. Margaret promised to support Jamie, to help him navigate this new chapter of his life. As Jamie got ready for bed, he looked at himself in the mirror one last time. The fear and anxiety were still there, but they were overshadowed by a new sense of acceptance and love. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, he felt like he was on the right path. Margaret stood in the doorway, watching her son, her daughter, begin this journey of self-discovery. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to support Jamie every step of the way. After all, love and understanding were the most important things she could offer. As she turned off the light and closed the door, she whispered, "Good night, Jamie. I love you." And for the first time in a long time, Jamie felt truly seen and loved. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, acceptance, and the promise of a brighter future. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions and discoveries. Margaret and Jamie spent hours talking, learning, and understanding more about what crossdressing meant for Jamie. Margaret did her research, joining online support groups for parents of transgender and gender nonconforming children. She learned about the importance of acceptance and the positive impact it could have on Jamie's mental health and self-esteem. Margaret decided to take Jamie shopping for clothes that better reflected her true self. They spent a Saturday afternoon at the mall, browsing through racks of beautiful dresses, skirts, and tops. Jamie felt a mix of excitement and nervousness, but with her mother by her side, she felt more confident. As they left the mall, bags in hand, Jamie felt a sense of liberation. She no longer had to hide who she was. They also visited a makeup store, where a kind saleswoman gave Jamie tips and even a mini makeover, boosting her confidence even more. Margaret and Jamie made it a tradition to have girls' nights, where they would watch movies, try out new makeup looks, and talk about their days. These nights became a cherished time for both of them, strengthening their bond. Margaret's support gave Jamie the courage to come out to a few close friends. To Jamie's relief, they were supportive and accepting, eager to learn more and to stand by her side. With each passing day, Jamie felt more comfortable in her own skin. The positive reinforcement from her mother and friends made a world of difference. She started to see herself as not just someone who crossdressed, but as a person worthy of love and respect. The acceptance and understanding she received transformed her fear into confidence, helping her embrace her true identity with pride. Thank you so much for watching till now. It means the world to have you here. This community is all about empowering each other and celebrating the incredible journeys of everyone on their path to living authentically. If you're ever feeling lost or alone, remember you have a whole family here for you. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and let's keep inspiring each other, sending you all the love and strength in the world. Until next time, live your life by your rules.